thegreen.com.
Hi, I'm Tree and this is Stitchers TV, and today we're going to make this gorgeous cardigan. For this cardigan I got an old scarf from Portobello Market in London, and it had these beautiful camels going all the way around the border, so I've used that for the bottom of the peplum, and it looks gorgeous at the back. We've got 2 darts at the back, and there was even enough left over for a scarf. Right, what you need for this tutorial, you just need a classic crew neck or V-neck cardigan. I got this one from the Uniqlo sale. I think it cost me something like £12 or something. But you could get it from a charity shop or just an old one from your cupboard. Also, you need a large square scarf. My one's 85 centimetres square. It can be bigger than that, but really not really smaller than that, because you need enough to gather. So we're going to try on the cardigan to see how far up we want the frill to go. So you put your cardigan on and then see where you want it to go. I've got to go and look in the mirror for this. Right, I think I want it to come probably to about there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons. I don't even need to measure it. I just know I'm going to do it up to the 4th button. So we counted 4 buttons. That was the length, or that's how much I wanted to come up on the cardigan. But we need seam allowance as well. So 4 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4 buttonholes. Comes to 18 centimetres. But I have to remember for seam allowance I've got to come down a little bit. So I'm going to keep my finger there. Keep my finger there. And I'm going to cut up about 1.5 centimetres away from the buttonholes, because I want to keep them, and I'm going to stop 1.5 centimetres away from where I want it to finish, and then basically we just cut all the way along. Keep that piece that you've just cut out, okay, because we're going to take it to our scarf and we're going to use it as a template for cutting out our scarf. But very, very important, seam allowance. You just have to take my word for it. We need the seam allowance extra of the cardigan plus seam allowance for our scarf. So all you need to know is to add 3 centimetres to that, and then that's where you're going to cut. So we have to cut 2 of them, so I'm laying the first one on top of here so I can use it as a template again, and then you just cut all the way along. Now, do you know what? This scarf used to belong to my nonna in Italy, and she's not alive anymore, and it's been sitting around in the back of my wardrobe, and I haven't really felt to wear it because I don't know, it looked a bit fuddy-duddy as a scarf, even though I always wear them on my head. But do you know what? This is a perfect way to make really brilliant use of it. So the rectangle that you have left over, don't throw it away, okay? Because look, we're going to fold it over and we're going to sew it, and we're just going to make it into a really lovely neck scarf. Look, just like this. And it's just going to coordinate with the frilly peplum at the bottom. Now what we're going to do is we need to locate the centre back. So the way to do that, we just fold over the cardigan. It's really simple. Fold over the cardigan. Look, I've got all this ink on my fingers. Been doing a school project for my daughter, sorry about that. So I've got the centre back there, so I'm going to put a little notch there, and I need to find where I'm going to put my darts in the back of the cardigan, okay? So I'm going to fold it over one more time. This time though, I'm not going to put a notch for the centre. I'm just going to put a little notch about 1 centimetre away from the edge. Now you've got to make sure you go through all of the layers, which I haven't done on that one, so I'm going to go there. We've got our darts, okay, and now what we've got to do is we've got to fold it over on one of the side darts, and you're matching up those 2 notches, and then essentially all you're doing, you're just sewing like that, going into nothing at the edge. It'll probably be roughly about that. It really doesn't need to be exact. Again, I say we use knitted fabrics and jerseys and fur because they just hide so much. They really do. You can make little mistakes and press them and nobody can see. I've pressed the darts on the cardigan here, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get those bits of scarf that we just cut out, and you just need to stitch up one side. You just need to stitch them together. Look, I've got two here. I'm going to stitch up one side, and then what's going to happen is then we're going to gather it, and all of this will just fit into the space like that. But that's in a minute. First of all, we're going to do stitching up the seam and gathering. I'm going to put the seams together, make sure that the hemmed edge is lined up because that's going to show, and then you're just ready to gather all the way along the long bit. So when you do your gathering, remember, gathering, it's your biggest stitch, no backwards and forwards, because you need to be able to pull the threads. If you go backwards and forwards, you can't pull the threads. And off we go. It's really easy. One more thing. Open up your centre back seam as I've done here, and then before you get to the back seam, stop, don't go backwards and forwards, because it's much easier to gather two smaller bits than one great big really long bit. So I'm going to stop at that centre back seam, and then I'm going to begin again along the next bit. Right, so we've stitched up the back seam there. I'll press it later, and we've done all our gathering. Look, we've done the gathering all along the top, but in two sections. So now with my grubby fingers I'm going to start gathering. So you can either pull the top thread or the bottom thread. You can't pull both or nothing happens. So that's one side gathered. Now what I'm doing, I'm not gathering it so that it exactly fits, but I am being aware of I need extra seam allowance down this end. I'm lining up the centre back with that centre notch. Do you remember we did the centre notch there? So I'm lining it up with there. But if it doesn't fit exactly, it doesn't matter, because we're gonna, you know, there's a lot of room for movement. So I'm gonna do the same on the other side. So it's gonna look like this. I've got it all gathered. It's gonna fit into there. I've lined up my centre back seam with that little notch. I've got a little bit more here, but it doesn't matter if I haven't, because I can ease it afterwards. Now, the first things that we're going to sew are not what you would expect to be. Come down here and have a look. What we're going to do, we've got it like that. We're going to put right sides together, okay, and we're going to stitch the edge of the scarf onto here. Now look, because it's silk, going onto a knitted fabric, I don't want to take any risks of things gathering up or anything like that, so that's where good old Bondi web comes in. I'm going to glue it in place first, and it will be a dream to sew. And now it's right sides together. You probably get really fed up with this right sides up, right sides together, but it makes, well, it's just the whole thing actually. It's enormous, makes an enormous difference. Very important, Bondi web. I cut it so that I get about 3 strips out of one width. So whatever measurement that is, it kind of looks like 2 mil. I'm going to put it on the cardigan, going along the cut bit. Make sure it doesn't go on the iron, and make sure it doesn't go on your ironing board. And then I'm going to put right sides together, and I'm going to really make sure that that's lined up properly there, and it's going to stop about there. So I'm going to get the iron now, and I'm going to press. Oh, whoops. Whoops. Okay. So I've got Bondi web on each end, and we're just going to go and sew. Now when you sew, it's the most important part, this bit. I know it sounds really silly, but look, these 2 bits, when you sew, make sure they're more or less the same length, okay? And when you sew, you're going to sew about 1 centimetre in, straight stitch, and you can't go in on the Bondi web, otherwise the Bondi web will show. So make sure that where you stitch is going to be past the Bondi web. So when you get to the end, you've got to stop a centimetre, whatever your seam allowance was, it was 1.5 centimetres for us. So you've got to stop 1.5 centimetres past where it's cut here. Look, if you have a look, I'm going to go along. And look where I'm stopping about there. Trim off all your loose threads, and this is what we've done. Okay, so we've come along here, we've made sure that we missed all our bonder web, and we've come, so we are, move these threads out of the way, we're you know, about 1.5 centimetres past this point here. And in a minute what we're going to do, it's very important, we're going to be mitering that. We're going to miter to the edge here. In fact, I'm going to do it now. We're going to miter it like that at an angle just to where your stitch had finished there, and then do exactly the same on the other side. So we got it like this. I've mitered my edge. Do you remember I said you cut a miter? It's a diagonal cut. The reason why we do that is because if it was together like that, how on earth could I turn around to go like that? I couldn't. So what you're doing is you miter it, so you open that up, so you get a bit of a triangle there, so that this can go all the way along, all nice and smooth. Now when you stitch it, you need to include that. So make sure when you stitch it, you go into there and capture it. Match up your notch with your centre back, and then you might need to ease. Remember, you can ease this open to make it fit now. So long as you're lining up the centre back of the scarf and the notch, you're all right. And then hold that there, and then just go to the machine and go and sew. It'll be really easy. Now remember, you had it on a large stitch before, didn't you, when you were doing your gathering? So you need to put that stitch back to number 3. So don't forget to do that. But there's something I want to say about the miter bit, because like for me, I've been doing it for years, so it's easy, but you know, it might be a bit tricky for you. This bit here, the miter bit, right? Remember we opened it up. When you come to the end and you come along and you finish at that point there, you've definitely got to incorporate that, because otherwise that's just going to fray. So you come along and you really carefully incorporate that, but you don't want to create a pleat or anything. Because that mitered bit, when you do sew it, you do have to sew on the knitted side, but do not stretch that knitted fabric. You can ease the gathering to be bigger rather than stretching the knitted fabric. So that's sewing on the knitted side, not on the silk side. So here it is. This is what we've got so far. Very exciting, I know, but we have to finish off. So look underneath, doesn't it look so great underneath? Oh my God. So because I think this is probably quite a synthetic scarf, I don't know, it's all kind of frayed. So it's really important to trim, just trim back all those loose threads. Okay, make it all neat underneath, because the inside is, you know, it's just as important as the outside. And then zigzag all those edges. Nearly there, we just got to press it. And remember, do you know what I always say? Never underestimate the iron and pressing. It's the difference between something looking really shoddy and cheap and something really beautifully finished off. And now the moment of truth. Ordinary lemon cardigan, which I probably would never have worn. Nonna's scarf, so I get to wear it, but not in a kind of usual fashion, so she can be with me, but in a stylish way. So let's have a look. What does it look like? Oh, it looks really great. Look at that. So the darts at the back, they just give it a little bit more shape. It's really, really nice, isn't it? I can tell that it's really, really nice. So that cost me, what did it cost me? £12 for the cardigan. Nonna didn't charge me for the scarf, so that was for free. So look, I've got this amazing, gorgeous cardigan for £12.
TheGreenGirls.com